Hello, this is Inquisitorial Archive, and my name is Kevin Rourke. Today I'll be reviewing Into the Storm for Rogue Trader. This was one of the first supplements, I think the first supplement aside from the GM's kit for Rogue Trader. Actually no, Lord Expanse out, but the first supplement that isn't like an adventure or GM's kit. It was one of the early ones. Quite a good buy if you do like your Rogue Trader. It's got a lot of interesting things. One of the first things you're going to get out of it is that they have a more expanded life path for characters before the game begins. However, in this book, all of they substitute. They have a new table in this book, which you see, yeah, here's the regular books one, here's our ones, and these ones are more powerful. However, they eat into your starting XP. Word to the wise, you're GMing this, and you're starting at a beyond normal starting level with a new character coming in. Restrict them to the 500 XP. I think it is spending XP for spending into life path, because you could just power the character up to ridiculous levels. Some of the stuff here you've got to keep an eye on a bit, but it's got different homeworlds, like Childhood of Dynasty, which is that you're grown up in the dynasty and you've been raised groomed for this kind of thing. You're from a penal world, Battle Fleet, Footfallen, that means you're from the Chronos Expanse itself, Frontier World, Fortress World, all these with different traits and ability modifiers, which work out through a plus effect where you're starting on the life path. As you're going through it, then you start to get the really funky stuff for the life path. For one of the more funky ones, you can have unnatural origin. You're not a normal person. You could be a clone, or you could have been grown in a vat, or you've been heavily influenced by contaminated environments. It works out pretty well. You go through all this stuff, and you pay the XP cost, keep in mind. And they have new motivations, which is nice, because some of the motivations before you were kind of going, it's a small enough list of motivations, and they don't necessarily right fix it. They really expand it out. Like, for example, if you pick knowledge, there's 3 different knowledges. There's know thy foe, knowledge is power, guard it well. And knowledge is life, life is knowledge. These different ones affect what abilities you get with the character and exactly the meaning of them. Works out pretty well. And they have an additional step to the life path called Lineage, which is optional for all characters. Everything here costs XP, I think. There that you can have, it's just your family. For example, you could be the heir apparent, which means you're really good at one of your starting skills. You get free talented for it. It works out quite well. I've had a lot of fun with these. I chose before disgrace, the subpart or subsection, whatever you want to call it, of disgraced, was the one to redeem them. And my character, even though he was a wardband, I never got to play this character, but I made him, I came with this background, that his family were from an Imperial Navy ship. They were nobility, they were officers, and it was a hereditary thing in this ship. But they had ended up becoming the scapegoats for anything bad that happened in the families. Although they were still there, they were the lowest ranked amongst ship. But this character had been made a scapegoat for something quite bad that happened. He was exiled from the ship, but he got working for the Rogue Trader, and it was basically he aspired to being the one to redeem them. His family he felt he had to redeem them. He felt that he had to prove that they were not always the cause of the blame, that they were better than this, that in fact they deserved their station. It's pretty cool. Some of the things you have to keep an eye out for, like one of them I think is called Dark Secret. Yeah, something really bad has happened to your character. This should more than be enough for at least the party to really heavily consider to kill you if they have the appropriate forbidden laws. For example, you have a UVAT artifact stuck in your body, which is something that comes from the Disciples of Dark Gods, or it has to be something really bad. That basically the players are going to want to kill you because you are potentially dangerous, and even if it might be possible to get rid of it, it goes into it should be extremely rare. What you get for this, you get a +6 to the stat of your choice. It's pretty powerful. I have seen some players who use it excessively and can't even come up with a good Dark Secret, which is a bit of a problem. It's like, yeah, you need to come up with it. Needs to be part of your character. You know, you're getting a +6 is a big hefty bonus. You need to be it needs to be something integral to your character to warrant taking it. I've turned people down, kind of saying, yeah, no, and I've gotten a lot stricter than I used to be. One player came to me with something and it was completely inappropriate. It wasn't nearly a big enough negative, and I turned around to him and said, like, look, how about something like this? And I said, you're going to be a member. How'd you like the idea? If your character's very religious, why not be a member of this heretical cult who really do worship the Emperor? They really honestly, they love the Emperor. However, they're called a temple tendency. However, they're seen as heretical because they are the remains of the imperial religion, the imperial creed, before it had this huge overhaul where this horribly corrupt leader. But as far as you see it, you follow the pure faith. Everyone else is heretical. But it's not necessary. You don't blame the people on the ground, the common people. It's not their fault. You've just been ousted from your position. They're being misled. It's the evil, bad priests. They've got infiltrators in the organizations. But if you're found out, it's pretty bad. And he went for that. And he's like, okay. And he really, I don't think he was paying attention to how bad I was saying things could be. He was like, great. And then he found out how bad things could be later on when the Inquisition came after him, and he, was like, oh no, it was like, and he completely turned over all of his allies, and he turned over all of the members of that organization that he knew of, which kind of screwed them over. But later on, another PC in one of my games played a member of this organization, and just because of the way things worked out, that PC found out, oh, this guy's after doing this to us. He just betrayed us like that so easily. Oh, okay, I'm going to make sure this information that although that guy was spared, the member who had completely turned on his heretical organization, not because he didn't lack faith in it, he just kind of went, I'm not getting in trouble for this, screw this. And that character was hunted down by a rather Puritan Inquisitor. Another nice section you have is the warrant of trade, to work on the warrant of trade. Because before this, they've left it fairly abstract. Now, as a group, you can sit around and pick choices on the table. You can go from one to left to right as you're going down. And you start by picking what age of the Imperium was the warrant made on. And you go through, the next player goes around the other. So everyone feels involved in making it a dynasty. Draw back to this, and this gives you ship points and profit factor respectively, as opposed to only in the main book, and it can give you additional options, and you can choose who you're, from the list, depending how far you've gone, what stage you've gotten on, what your allies and contacts are for the family. And this is pretty good. The one thing is that sometimes the person who chooses to play the rogue trader, the leader of the dynasty, I've seen people going, I can't work on my character till we get this bit sorted, and sometimes come out with it. People need to be clear what kind of way they want to go with the game. So sometimes a person goes, I can't make a character till we have the dynasty sorted out, because it's just they can't nail down what their family's like. But it's got a good description, different things going on. I quite like that section. Next, you have alternate ranks, much like in Inquisitor's Handbook. These break up. You've got like the Chem Gland Warrior, which I mentioned in my review of Rogue Trader, which works out pretty well. The Chem Gland Warrior, although you've got like loads of these implants put into you. Originally, it was named in Inquisitor's Handbook, not in Inquisitor's Handbook, sorry. It was in the Inquisitor sort of narrative skirmish, something similar to RPG game, which Games Workshop brought up years ago with these giant models, and a guy called Sergeant Stone. He might have come up in some novel somewhere at some stage or another as well. But you've got these implants and it makes you immune to toxic things, and you can get swift attack from that. And they've got, I think it's Calixian Privateer, which means you're a rogue trader. It's like you can take it rank 2, but it substitutes out the rank, and you've got a letter of marque from some powerful imperial organization or another, and you're to defend their territories. Of course, you're probably just going to use this to, the majority of the time, go pirating against you're going to go on the offensive and take out those pirates, but you're not going to be too picky about who's a pirate and who's not necessarily. Although you can just play it straight up, no, you're actually a privateer. There's also two of the biggest things they've got going in the career section is Xenos, alien characters. There is the Orc Freebooter and the Crute Mercenary. You don't take a life back with these, or they do, but they're very much smaller, race specific, something similar to life paths, except for you're not choosing going up and down, going from side to side on the table, you're just choosing. So you could pick an orc who used to be a run-turd, that kind of thing, what clan you're from, different things. It works out pretty well. The orcs start off with natural trait toughness, the Kroot are starting off with natural trait strength, they're pretty deadly. The Kroot, you don't get to use, with orcs you don't get to use human gear that much. Or if you do, you get penalties because it's not made for you, you're just too big. With Kroot, you actually start to get up a lot of exotic weapon proficiencies because it's just one of the advantages, and they are meant to use human equipment and Tau equipment at different times. It works out pretty well. These are orcs can be fantastically fun. They depends on the group. Some groups, the way the players want to go. If you want to play a really Puritan group who really love the Emperor, an orc doesn't necessarily make a hell of a lot of sense. Or neither does a Kroot even. But I have seen an orcs played quite well. I've even been in a game where the GM went, we're going to play an orcs game, we're just using Rogue Trader because there's rules there. And we all made orcs and we had tremendous fun. But seeing an orc, I saw someone just playing it out. Now an orc, and his character was, even for an orc after a while, he wasn't that bright. But seeing the group's astropath go, I'm smarter than him, I'll outsmart him. But the player who was playing the orc really knew orcs. So he's like, no, there's a bunch of those people you like to kill. They're down at the, in the lower decks on a different ship. So he'd go down to the deck below them because that was lower, and he'd start killing people. And that was a bit insane at that time. He was pushing a little there, but he honestly didn't know, and just explained to him. So when they explained that, no, you can't do that because of this, he's like, okay. Or it's like, but why not? I don't understand. So it works out pretty well. They're a bit crazy. Orcs can take a lot more damage, but they don't necessarily get as heavy armor. Their own equipment is different. What I do love in the book is, as well, in the armory section, they do have a separate armory section for Kroot and orcs. The Kroot, of course, can use lots of different people, but they can't use the armor of other species because their bodies are too different. That's how they're trying to balance them out. But you can get some quite nice stuff for them. But for example, you can get red dot laser sights normally in Rogue Trader and a lot of the other games to make yourself more accurate, but that's not the way an orc would think. So if you're trying to get an orcish weapon, you don't get them like that. Orcs, when you have them properly made, you have a red light. So you've got basically a big red flashlight stuck onto the side of your gun. It gives you the same bonuses, but you get it. And instead of just a silencer, you can get a loudener, which gives you bonuses to pinning tests. The orcs and the Kroot work out pretty well, but they're not for every group, like the characters in the group, or even PCs. Some PCs are like, that's a step too far, I don't want to go there. It does require a little more suspension of disbelief, but if you're used to dealing with some of the stuff Games Workshop comes out at times, you're used to suspensions of disbelief. They also have some alternate ranks for the, as well as the human characters, they have ones for the orcs and the Kroot, like a Kroot Shaper, and an Orc Mech Boy, and a Orc Commando, which are respectively under different fields. It works out pretty well when you're going through the characters. They're bringing a lot more equipment in this book. For example, they have heavy power armor, which I think you take horrendous penalties to dodge and agility and different things. But it's got one more armor in all locations compared to regular power armor. It's options. There's a lot more options what to do, special ammunition, that kind of thing. The armory section's pretty good. Just giving you more options, really. Because as some people have said, I think it was what was it? Sorry, it was Eric's UK saying one things you don't. That's whether you need the options in some of these other things. Yeah, you're a bit, or no, it wasn't. It was Captain Machine was saying that there's not enough equipment in the main book. I disagree with that for initially starting off. There's enough to get you by for a while, but Into the Storm definitely helps a lot with that. I can see why some people would say that, though. You don't exactly get mountains of equipment in the main book, or it doesn't feel like it for the amount of money you're getting. There's a lot of different choices with the alternate ranks. Really helps. Like the Xenographer is one where you study aliens. This can be, you might actually still hate aliens, but you study aliens. Or you might actually think, aliens are really cool, I like aliens, and want to learn more about them. But like, I hate aliens, I want to understand more. It means regardless of your class, you can potentially start picking up forbidden lores regarding to aliens and speak languages and things. All these have their prerequisites to work out pretty well. The equipment section, as I said, you've got the Kroot bit, Orc bit, and the general sections. Now, so far, pretty good. Quite like it. You have more options for ships. In this book, nothing ridiculous changes, just more the general options for equipment. A few nice bits of gear, as well as different hulls, which is pretty cool. Nothing groundbreaking. You're going to get that in Battlefleet Corona, some quite cool stuff in that, but that's not in this book. You also get vehicle rules, which I won't go into because, to be honest, I haven't used them that much. I've used them a little bit for role-playing game, for the 40k games. These are one of the first. They did bring out one as a free supplement for Dark Heresy when Black Industries was doing it, but that was extremely basic. You're going to get better vehicle rules in some of the later ones. Except Black Crusade, which to this date has no Black Crusade specific vehicle rules. I'm after opening Tome of Blood earlier today to discover it's like, why do all these demon engines? Why do they have toughness bonuses? Why don't they have stats like I'm used to for vehicles? They're demon engines, so you got a bit more leeway there. But I've seen stats for them in other books. And you got stats for some of the vehicles like gun cutters and rhinos and things. So it's like, yeah, no, it's handy to have this stuff here. And once more, you get force weapons introduced in this book. The starships and things, yeah, the vehicle stuff, I like it. It's good options there. Where we start to get a bit edgy, they start bringing additional navigator powers and additional astropath powers. The navigator power is fine. Some of them are a bit crazy. Like there's one I think you can give people corruption points, and one where you can open your warp eye to do like a flamethrower. It's something similar to a heavy flamer. It's like, okay, that's pretty nuts. I can get over those. Some people aren't going to like them just because navigators aren't terribly well explored in the majority of 40k. What I do have a big issue with, which is one of the things I absolutely hate in this book, are the Teomancy powers. The Teomancy powers, basically, you're supposed to have this great connection with the Emperor and your astropath, and you can use these powers, and what results from this is that you just start kicking the crap out of demons. And they don't have it. They don't have much of a chance. Lesser demons, like one of the abilities, you affect all demons within a certain radius. They all take this amount of damage. It doesn't cap out the number of demons. They're just screwed. You heard me talking throughout the book about how difficult it is to oppose them. And this is just, demons honestly stop becoming a threat. One of the games I ran, the players were fighting a bunch of demons which had got on board their ship in a warp journey, and the astropath was like, oh, I want to be there, I want to help, and I was like, oh, okay, he wants to be there and myself, but he's a long way away, so I was really fudging these, letting him get there. I was like, I don't want to have him sit here through the whole fight, but I'm going to have to wait a couple of rounds. And the players having this epic battle against him, and this went down for a couple of turns, and they were like, oh, we've managed to get one or two down, but oh no, the rogue trader's down, he's after burning a fate point. Jesus, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to deal with this. And the astropath comes around the corner, does his psychic power, all the demons disappear. And then he goes, oh, I hardly got to be afraid of fight. And it's like, you just totaled the fight. It takes the scariness out of demons, which in Warhammer 40,000 should never be taken out. I had a fight where a astropath with this ability, they were fighting against a demon prince and a bunch of lesser demons. He heavily injured the demon prince and killed all of the lesser demons in one round. Sure, you can do setup things to move them out, but it's too good at it. And it's supposed to be quite rare, but players will gravitate towards it. A lot of players will gravitate towards it because it's so powerful. It stops me. When you're dealing with that, and that all astropaths have telepathy and you can start mind controlling people, when you take out demons as a threat, you're looking at servitors and other things after a certain stage, or just sheer volumes of people to make this threat. You do have a sample, sort of an outline, it's not really an adventure, a sample outline for a meta endeavor, I think they call it. I've never seen trying to get someone to employ meta endeavors. It's made of smaller endeavors, which you just have to do one after another. It seems pretty interesting, and it's not a bad one to necessarily try, although some of it's just kind of going, yeah, some of these sections, you'll just go, it's been 6 months, you did this, give me a couple of rolls, we're sorting out 6 months and 10 minutes. Not for everyone. I certainly never played it. One of the cool things is they do have ship rolls, like the warp guide or the ship's burst sort of things. Every player can pick one of these if you meet certain requirements, and of course the group's happy for you to do this. You don't just get to go, I'm going to be first officer, and they're like, well, no, we don't trust you, you're completely insane. And it works out pretty well. You only get to pick one. You can change it later on, but there's a 100 XP penalty every time you try and change it. Although the GM could waive this if it honestly makes sense. Like, well, the first officer died, I'm becoming the first officer now. They give you little mechanical bonuses. Like one of them, I think, gives you you get command while you're on the ship, even if you don't have command. But if you do have command, you get an additional bonus. Works out pretty well. And they do have a section detailing Port Wander, some of the different groups that operate in Port Wander, and a couple of adventure seeds. It works out pretty well. The book is worth it. I cannot tell you how much I hate Tiamancy. I'm sure there are people who've had fantastic fun with it, but I hate it with a passion. But the book is good, so I hope you have fun with that if you do decide to pick it up, if you do play Rogue Trader. And well, that's my review of it. Into completion, totally it up, sizing everything up I did. Book good. Kevin hates Tiamancy. If you're ever in my games, don't even ask me for Tiamancy anymore. I hate it with a passion. So, I hope you found this informative and fun. Goodbye.